my crazy hair. Welcome. It has been a minute. If you guys are new and haven't really watched anything that I've posted before and you have no idea who I am, my name is Lindsay. I am a mom and I have no clue what I'm doing 90% of the time. So welcome to Not a Clue, Motherhood. So let's jump into this video. I was thinking I would fold some laundry, give you guys an update, kind of like a life update. I posted my birth story last spring, or in January actually, right before we brought Naomi home from the NICU. I filmed a day in the NICU life, and then I had plans to film like her coming home and everything. But her coming home was like the most traumatic week of my life. I thought giving birth to her and her traumatic entrance into the world was pretty rough, but bringing her home was an emotional roller coaster. So I was kind of going to go back to last spring and just kind of update y'all on life and what's been going on and whatever. But yeah, so I'm going to fold some clothes and we're going to get into that. So the dryer's done. Okay. More clothes. So let's do this. I've been putting off my laundry. I've been procrastinating. But anyways, long story short, let's start from when we brought Naomi home from the NICU. So we brought Naomi home January 24th, which was really cool because her due date was the 23rd, and Kevin's birthday is the 25th. So it was like, she's home and she's like the right age and everything. And then also, happy birthday, Kevin. So that was cool. So she came home. She didn't have to come home on anything. She didn't come home on any oxygen. She didn't come home on any monitors. She was, totally fine and healthy. She came home at 5 pounds. Excuse you, ma'am. You're not invited. The cat. But she came home at 5 pounds. And our goal was to go to all of her follow-up appointments and continue to address her issues. When she got discharged, the things we knew about in terms of her diagnosis was we knew she had retinopathy of prematurity, which is the eyes. You can look it up. There's like a long technical explanation. And that will give you the answers you may have about that. Or I can make a whole video about retinopathy of prematurity because we did the whole shebang. So anyways, she had it really bad in both eyes, so we had to go to Preemie eye clinic once a week for like 3 months, and then it was kind of getting better, so they were like, okay, well now we're gonna move you to every 2 weeks. And then it was, no, you're getting worse, so you need to come back every week. So it was wild. It was wild. We were going to Columbus once a week, and like her appointments were like at 9 o'clock, so we had to leave our house at like 7:45 to get down there. So the day literally started at 5 a.m. It was awful. So anyways, we did that, and she also came home with the diagnosis of having a VSD, which is a hole in her heart, like a really tiny hole that was just letting blood pass from the different chambers, which it wasn't supposed to be there. So some kids, those heal up on their own, and some kids require surgery. So we had to do that, and then we also had to go to Preemie Developmental Clinic, which if you have a Preemie or you've had a Preemie, then you probably are familiar with Developmental Clinic. You have to go for their 3-month markers. So 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, you have to go for those markers. And they just kind of check and see, are you meeting your milestones? Is there any further delays or whatever? So in our very first developmental clinic, we were referred to neurology because Naomi was presenting with more delays than just her premature adjusted age. She was born 11 weeks early, so almost a whole 3 months early. And so her corrected age is 3 months behind. So when she came home from the NICU, she was 3 months old almost, but she behaved more like a newborn because she was delayed in that sense. But as time went on and we went to our first developmental clinic, which was when she was technically 6 months old, but she was, supposed to be like a 3-month-old, she was still behaving more like a newborn in some aspects. That's kind of the weird thing for me, is like in some areas she's super delayed and isn't even hitting her adjusted age milestones, and then in other areas she acts like her actual age, which is just, it's weird. But anyways, so yeah, so we went, we had to go back in a couple weeks to see neurology, and she had failed, when we left the NICU, she had failed her newborn hearing screening, which if you watched my previous video, you saw that she got her cochlear implant, which I'm going to talk about that right now. We were referred to audiology outside of the hospital. We went there, and that was a very difficult appointment for me. We were told at that appointment that she was deaf and that she would not get any better, that she would continue to actually get worse, that her hearing would become worse and worse, and that for me was just, it was a lot to handle and a lot to digest, because there's no reason why she should have been deaf. Like, we don't have any family history of that, and we don't, nothing major happened to her that would have caused that, as far as we knew. So, we're just kind of like, wow, that's really out of left field. But the more I thought about it after the fact, the more it made sense. She never startled, she never reacted to sound, never calmed to the sound of my voice. Like, you know how they say moms can like walk into the room and say something and their babies are like, oh, my mom's here. She never did that. I had to go over and physically get her, or she had to see me to like, react. So it kind of made sense in that, after I thought about it. In, hindsight, it made sense. So, all that to say, her diagnosis was really difficult for me and Kevin, especially because, we're first-time parents, we're figuring it out, we had our baby early, super traumatic, and then now we are finding out that there's something that is a serious handicap for her. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with her. Being deaf does not make her sick, and that doesn't make her, disabled in the sense that she can't do the things that other kids can do. She just can't hear. But she kind of can hear. So in her right ear, she has a diagnosis of profound, permanent sensory neural hearing loss, which basically means that everything is there and intact. All of her outer ear and inner ear pieces, all the way her nerves, everything is there. But it doesn't work. So it just does not communicate to the brain that it's receiving any sound. On the left side, however, she has mild to severe hearing loss, which means she can hear out of her left ear, just very little. Loud noises like sirens, fireworks, and if we're talking really loud, music at church, which makes a lot of sense because even when she was in the womb, she would react to sounds outside that startled me. So if something startled me and I was like, oh my goodness, then she would jump. So, those things that I started piecing together after we got this diagnosis. So, because of that diagnosis, we were referred to an ENT to see what our next steps were going to be hearing aid, cochlear, what are our options? And immediately Kevin and I started researching ASL. We knew that if we were going to have a deaf child, we wanted to be able to communicate with them. We want them to be able to communicate with us. And, we just wanted her to have every opportunity to be able to communicate in this world. And so we started, learning baby sign language and trying to teach her baby sign language. And so that was really cool, which I had kind of been thinking about teaching my kids baby sign language anyways, because research shows that most babies are able to communicate efficiently in sign language by 6 months if you start right away, as soon as they're born. Even if they can't see properly until they're 3 months old, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you start right away, it will help. So we started immediately with that, and it was a big, big help. To be able to communicate, she knows milk and mama and dada, bath time, bedtime, pajamas, happy, sad, emotions. And we're learning still. Kevin and I didn't know sign language before this, and so we are learning, and so is she. So anyways, so this is all happening like within the span of January to March. So in March, we went to the ENT, and we have an amazing ENT, by the way. He's totally awesome. So we went in and we saw him, and he said, well, I really can't say much until I know what is going on inside. So he's like, what I would like to do is I would like to put her under, so put her like under anesthesia, and do a test that will like look inside of her ear, and we can see what's going on. And he's like, I want to do an MRI and all of these things. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we're getting ready to go and have this done. We follow up with neurology. So we go to neurology, and they're like, we need to do an MRI so we can see if there's anything going on with her brain, like what's going on and all this stuff, why she had these delays. And so I was like, well, hey, that's perfect, because ENT already wants to put her under for the same thing, so you can just add images onto that. And she was like, perfect, because, they want to avoid putting little babies under anesthesia as much as possible, because, they may not tolerate it well, especially when Naomi had the VSD, the hole in her heart still. So, we went in. They had scheduled her surgery. They're just putting her under and taking some images and then doing an ABR, which is like a hearing test while she's under sedation. And so they did that in June, at the very beginning of June. And from that, they determined that the left ear could use a hearing aid, and that would be sufficient to bring her to 100% hearing on that side. And then they determined that she would be an excellent candidate for a CI, or Cochlear Implant. I'm going to call it a CI from now on, because that's what we call it. She's an excellent candidate for that on the right side because of the type of hearing loss that she has, which is great. So, it gives her the option. And Kevin and I, we were kind of like on the fence about the CI at first, because the type of hearing that it provides is totally different than like the traditional hearing that you get from your natural ear, or even what a hearing aid provides, because a hearing aid is just amplification, is basically what it is. But a CI is an entirely different way of hearing. And I'm not very good at explaining how it works or whatever, but they put a little receiver on the inside next to her cochlea nerve, and then she has the part on the outside that has microphones and brings in the sound, and then translates it and puts it through her receiver, and then her brain like somehow interprets that into sound. It's actually really cool, but it's also a non-traditional, non-natural way of hearing, and it provides a different type of hearing. And anyone who has a CI can tell you that and if they like had hearing before and then now they have a CI, they can tell you that it's very different, and it takes a while to get used to, but it's very, very different. So we were kind of like, no, we don't really want that. She's got the one hearing aid and whatever. So we kind of discussed it with the ENT, and we were like, what is the best option and stuff, and he said because she's so young, getting the CI is going to give her spoken language. So we were like, okay, you know, we get it, but at the same time, we're doing everything we can to give her ASL. Does she need really good spoken language? It's debatable, and not every kid is going to have the same answers that we have, and not every family is going to fit the same answers that we are. So, you know, definitely don't take this as me saying you shouldn't get CIs or you should get CIs. It's different for every family, and for every kid. For Naomi, it was a good option. She is an expressive and talkative little girl. She loves to talk, and she's learning new words all the time. But, so we decided to go with the CI. Then we had our follow-up with neurology after they did the MRI, and it come to find out she actually has brain damage in the form of significant white brain matter loss, which is like where all of the motor skills are going to come from. So a lot of like her grabbing things and standing and her coordination and things like that were going to be significantly delayed and continue to be significantly delayed. So we immediately decided to put her in weekly physical therapy, and we started that last summer. And then we knew eventually she would start speech therapy for her hearing aid and her cochlear, and her appointment to be fitted for her hearing aid was in June, the end of June, and then they went ahead and ordered her hearing aid, and we received it in August. In between that, we were still going to Preemie Eye Clinic and getting her eyes checked out for her retinopathy and keeping an eye on it. We were hoping and hoping that it was going to get better. We come around to, I think, the end of May, beginning of June, and the eye doctor was like, this isn't getting any better, she's getting bigger, let's just do laser surgery and fix the retinopathy. It will prevent her from having a detached retina when she gets bigger, and it will also help her not have to go to Preemie Clinic every week, which I was 100% for. And it was a quick, easy procedure, 15 minutes per eye, and they just went in and they lasered the little ridges. That was in July. So she had that corrected in July of last year. Oh, I almost forgot. How could I have forgotten? So, all of this is going on between June and July. And then at the end of June, I started feeling really tired, really fatigued, and just like super run down. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why do I feel this way? And Kevin actually had been working nights this whole time. He worked nights when she was in the NICU. He worked nights when I was pregnant. And when Naomi was born, we decided, both of us, to go get certifications so we could get better jobs. Actually, I had decided before Naomi was born that I was going to get a certification for a job to work from home. And I had signed up for classes, and they actually started the day she was born. So it's like, while she was in the NICU, I was doing school and trying to manage that wildness of the NICU and the emotional roller coaster that was. And I also had severe postpartum anxiety and depression, which I had no idea at the time. I think in my birth story, I talk about the fact that I'm having a difficult time and that I'm sorting it out. And I actually ended up going on medication for it, which made me so much more of a tolerable human and able to kind of navigate her circumstances and her situation a little bit. So, anyways, back to June. So the end of June, Kevin had found a new job, and he had put in his 2 weeks at his job where he worked nights. And it was his last day of his last week of his 2 weeks. And I was getting Naomi ready for bed, and I was having my dinner and whatever, and I was sitting on the couch, and I felt baby flutters. Like, you know, when you're newly pregnant and like you're 12, 13, 14 weeks, and you start feeling baby flutters, like they're the early kicks is what they are. And I thought, no way. And I took a test, and sure enough, I was pregnant with baby number 2. Speaking of baby number 2. So, I went to the doctor. It turns out I was 16 weeks pregnant. I had no idea. And we were going to be welcoming a new baby at the end of January, beginning of February was what we found out. So this past February, we welcomed into our family Ella Nicole. Say hi, Ella. Say hi, Ella. She just turned 2 months old this past Saturday, and it was very, very fun. When we found out we were having another girl, we were excited, and now I have 2 girls who are 15 months apart. So Naomi is 17 months and will be 18 months in May, and Ella will be 3 months in May. But definitely what I like to say is Ella wasn't our plan, but Ella was God's plan, because having a sister who is full term and doesn't have any of the delays that Naomi does, I think is going to be amazing for her in the long run. Like, Ella already is like rolling over and trying to like be on the move and wants to be going all the time. So once we found out we were pregnant, we then were like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? We had 2 babies. And when we were pregnant with Naomi, we bought our house, this house, and we bought it as a starter home, and it's a 3-bedroom, 1,000 square feet, and, you know, we thought that would be great. That would be plenty of space for the next 3, 4, 5 years while we have 1 kid. And then when we found out we were pregnant with Ella, and we started acquiring all the things that we needed for baby number 2, rapidly, because it was the end of June when I found out I was pregnant, we realized very quickly that our house is way too small. So we had thought maybe we'll try to move before Ella comes, and things just didn't work out for us in that sense. It was very stressful. I had a hard pregnancy, and not a hard pregnancy in the terms of like Naomi's pregnancy, because I had preeclampsia with her, but I had a hard pregnancy in the sense that I had a toddler and I was pregnant. And not only a toddler who's delayed and is actually more like an infant. So she's like, when I found out I was pregnant, she was still nursing and wouldn't take a bottle. And she couldn't sit up on her own. She was sleeping through the night, thank goodness. But she wasn't doing any of the things that an almost 1-year-old would be doing, because she turned 1 in November. So, so it was a very interesting pregnancy. But, yeah. So that was in June, and then in July, Naomi got her eyes fixed, which was great. And she did amazing with that surgery, too. She's done awesome with all of her surgeries. Every time they put her under, she's done amazing. And then in August, we followed up with cardiology to check on the hole in her heart. And we were so relieved to find out that the hole in her heart had healed and closed on its own and would not require surgery. So that was a huge blessing. So we discovered that, and she got discharged from eye clinic in July, and she got discharged from cardiology follow-ups in August. So that was cool. We were like checking the doctors off. Like, we're done with this doctor. We're done with this doctor. So now she just sees the neurologist every 6 months to keep checking on her development. There's not a whole lot we can do for her. In September, we did decide to do some genetics testing to try to see if there was anything genetically wrong. We have no history of anything like that in either of our families. But because she was premature, we didn't know if anything could have resulted from that. So we did a very basic test, and it didn't show anything. And so just recently, when we went back to see neurology in January, we also consulted with genetics. And now we go to genetics. And so the genetics doctor ordered more testing and ordered like a more extensive test. Like, this test is so extensive that they take my DNA and Kevin's DNA and Naomi's DNA and compare them to look at like the most minute details to see if there's anything that's just a little bit wrong or mixed up or something. Because nothing was missing from her DNA. There were no deletions, there was no extra chromosome, there was no missing chromosome, and there was no like small little breakdowns in the chromosomes, nothing like that. So now we're looking even further into the genetic code, which is like really cool. Yeah, hi baby. So anyways, that was in September was when we started looking into a genetic side of Naomi's delays. She was 1 year old when she said her first word, which was really awesome. And she started sitting up by herself and everything like that. And her first word was dada. Not surprised at all. She's a daddy's girl, 100%. When dad gets home from work, I'm chopped liver. She does not care about me. She wants to be with her dad the whole time, the entire time until she goes to bed. She has to be by daddy's side. Which they spent a lot of time together while I was pregnant because I was very, very sick. I was extremely nauseous with Ella, and I was a little nauseous with Naomi. I thought I was nauseous with Naomi. I was like, oh my gosh, morning sickness, I'm nauseous. No. This time around, I was very nauseous. I threw up so much. And, like, it wouldn't even be like I am eating or I'm not eating and so I'm nauseous. I would, like, see something or smell something and I'm like, I'm gonna be sick. I was so squeamish this time around. I don't know what your deal was. But as for those of you who know, Naomi, when she was born, or for those of you who don't know, I suppose, when she was born, she weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces, and she was 14 inches long. And she was born at 28 weeks and 6 days, so almost 29 weeks. And so that was like, you know, my tiny baby. That was my only experience as a mom because I have no clue what I'm doing most of the time. So this time around, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Like, I've been pregnant before, but then this pregnancy was, like, entirely different, and so I had no idea what I was doing. Just another way that motherhood is just like, you think you know what you're doing? No, you don't. It's like, yeah, thanks so much, motherhood. But, you know, us moms are so good at rolling with it. We are so good at figuring it out and making it work. And somehow, I have managed to take 2 babies, by the way, none of which who walk or can care for anything by themselves, have to have everything done for them. Somehow, I have managed to take 2 babies and be, like, on my own, taking them to appointments and doing things with them for the past 2 months. Pretty much. I was driving, after my C-section with Ella, I was driving 2 weeks later. Which apparently is unheard of. I also didn't take anything strong. I just took Tylenol for my pain. My doctor was like, you sure you don't want anything else? I'm like, I'm good. I'm great. And so I had a really hard start with Ella because she was my second. And I can talk a little bit about that, and if you guys want me to do like a postpartum depression and anxiety video and talk about the differences between my first and second, because I had it with both. And I took medication for when I had Naomi, but I didn't take medication this time around. I kind of dealt with it differently. But Kevin and I were a little bit prepared because I had like some waves of depression while I was pregnant. And so I was like, okay, I feel like when she gets here, I'm going to like emotionally crash. And so we kind of put some things in place to prepare for that. So I can go more into that into a different video if you'd like. So here we are in January. Naomi is scheduled to have her cochlear implant put in. So we're like, awesome, we're going to get her cochlear implant put in before her sister's born. This is great. And I was 35 weeks pregnant with Ella, and we were getting ready. We were getting the nursery ready, getting Naomi ready, and all this fun stuff, and going to her, getting her surgery stuff, and prepping for her surgery. It's only 11. I'm trying to see what time it is. I have someone coming over. So we go down to Columbus where her surgery is going to be. We do her pre-procedure screening, like all of her testing that she had to get done, her blood work and stuff. And we're in the Ronald McDonald House spending the night because it's like an hour and 20 minutes to get to the hospital from our house. And usually when you report for surgery, you have to report like at 7 a.m. At least because we have a little baby, so she's always like first. You have to report at like 7 a.m., which means that we'd have to get up and leave our house at like 3 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I really don't want to do that. And they call us and they say, your daughter's test came back positive for COVID. And I'm like, what? Like, she wasn't sick at all. She had 0 symptoms. She was crawling all over the place. She was wild. She didn't want to go to bed. She was crazy. And I'm just like, she's not sick. She's fine. They're like, well, some little kids, when they get COVID, they have no symptoms. They're fine. And I'm like, okay. Kevin and I, we go home and we're like, well, if she's got COVID, then we can't have the surgery and we have to postpone the surgery and everything. And my C-section was scheduled for Ella for the 17th of February. And I was like, dang, are they going to be able to get us in for surgery before Ella's born, or are we going to have to wait? So, Kevin and I got sick. We were both down for like a day. We had like really bad colds when we got home, and I tested positive. Since I tested positive and Naomi tested positive, Kevin just was like, yeah, I probably have it. So we just stayed home together for a week. And then I asked the doctor, like, do I need to do anything because I'm pregnant and whatever? And he's like, no, actually it's really good because now your baby is going to have like natural immunity and these antibodies because you have had COVID and you're going to pass those to her. So yay me. But I had to be sick, so that wasn't fun. But now Ella won't get sick, so that's great. So anyways, they called me to reschedule Naomi's surgery. And they're like, can you do it on February 14th? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not having my daughter have surgery 3 days before I have my surgery. No, I was like, can we actually like go later in the year? Because having a baby, and I kind of would like my baby to be bigger before I have to go take my daughter to surgery and deal with her having surgery. So it ended up being great because she's getting more independent and like not necessarily needing to be held all the time. She's still nursing, so she has to like be with me all the time, but she doesn't have to be held all the time. And so dealing with Naomi was a little bit better and a little bit easier. That's kind of where we are right now in life. Naomi is healthy. She's got her CI on her right side, and she's got her hearing aid on her left side. And she's doing amazing. She's crawling. She's pulling to stand. She wants to walk really bad. So she'll be doing that soon, I'm sure. Ella is amazing and a wonderful addition to our family who looks just like me. Thank goodness, because Naomi looks just like Kevin, so it's only fair. Isn't it? Yeah, you look like Mommy. Oh, and Ella can hear. She's 100% hearing. She passed her newborn screening, but we know what to look for now if she wasn't. But she 100% can hear. We can tell a big difference between having a baby who could not hear and a baby who can. And obviously because our first couldn't hear, we didn't know that it wasn't normal. to be asleep and stay asleep while people are screaming and yelling around you and doing stuff. We brought Ella home and we're like, why doesn't this baby sleep? And then Kevin and I are like, oh my gosh, like we're so loud, we're waking her up. Hey, you're okay. Yeah, so now we have 2 girls and we're going to move. We're getting a bigger house. We don't have one yet, but we are in the process of finding one and in the process of getting our house ready to sell. So we're working on lots of projects. But I wanted to give you guys a quick life update, kind of go through the past year and what you have kind of missed. I want to get back into video journaling like this and talk more about what's been going on with the girls and keep my videos coming just so that I have something to look back on for my memory's sake. Especially this summer is going to be really fun with Naomi because she'll be like walking or learning to walk. And she is loving outside. She loves outside and she loves to swim. She swam last summer quite a bit and she liked it. So I am excited to see how much of her love for swimming has grown. So, having said all that, I still have no clue what I'm doing. And now it's just multiplied by 2. So I hope that you enjoyed catching up with us. Let me know if you have any specific questions about anything I talked about. I would love to have an idea for a video. That would be great. Subscribe to see more Ella. She's pretty crazy. She's like, don't call me crazy. She's got attitude. Subscribe, like the video because that really helps me out and lets me know that you guys enjoy these like sit down talking videos where I'm supposed to be folding clothes and I am not. That is also motherhood. So if you totally feel that, like it, like the video. But thanks for listening and I'll catch you guys later.